going to cause an increase in mob justice, instant justice. I mean, if a person is caught in the act of a crime, it is most likely that people who catch him, who apprehend him, will deal with him there and there, because there's a notion that, well, after all, if we let him go, he might be granted bail anytime soon. Okay. Does this not disturb you? Because again, this is downtrodden the rights of an individual.
Okay. The issue of mob justice is I think it's unfortunate if that it still happens in our society. I think the way to address that is not to run away from it, it's to confront it. I think the issue of, we have to look at why there is mob justice. Part of it, I believe, has to also do with education. The relevant institutions, including the NCCE, would have to do a lot more, like inform the people a lot more as to how the system works. Usually, even with the mob justice, usually it's just hearing one side of the story. They haven't heard the other side of the story, but they rush. It's not fair. It's not fair. And so, one, it has to be dealt with according to law. And then there has to be a lot more information as to what our criminal jurisprudence is. And it's like you said, it is innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until proven innocent. Largely, we proceed on the basis of the fact that the person is guilty until proven innocent, which is actually turning the principle on its head. Our people have to come to an understanding. The institutions have to get our people, or the majority of our people, to understand that what we operate in this country is innocent until proven guilty. They must be educated or informed to understand how our system works and to be patient. I think a lot of the time people don't understand how it works. They see the person out on bail and they think that is the end of the story. They may not actually follow that the case is still ongoing, and at the end of the day, sentence will be passed. So I think it behoves on all of us to keep our people informed. But if we are now going to run our institutions and our structures and our society based on uninformed actions, then what is the point? What is the point of our democracy at the end of the day? We should be able to bring our people along. We should be able to let our people see the ideal. Then we all chase that ideal, not to abandon the ideal because people don't understand. So back to, I think that the institutions, what it means is that the institutions have a lot of work to do. Must be up and doing. They must be up and doing. And the Supreme Court will also have to come out with practice note directions, which would be directions to all judges on how to exercise the discretion.
What were some of your frustrations? Share some of your experiences with us. Perhaps that would give us an indication as to why you're this passionate about the expansion of this law. Yes,
I've said elsewhere before. When I was a law student, for example, I went to visit the Insawam prison just as part of the course, and there was this young man who was a prisoner who was there. He was he seemed very well behaved because he wasn't rowdy like the other prisoners. And he looked very neat, even in his prison. You could see that he was trying to keep his corner. So I saw him as a generally well-behaved boy. So I asked him that, but you seem a very well-behaved boy. How did you end up here? And he said, oh, just nonchalantly, as if he was, it's like, oh, when he was dating somebody's daughter, the man didn't like it. So the man called the police, the head of the police in their area, and then they brought him here and kept him there and slapped him with a charge of rape. He had been there at the time for up to 3 years without trial.
Oh boy. Without
trial. And any time I think of this, I remember that boy. It's not fair. At least try him. If the person is guilty, then they serve their jail term. But you don't put them on remand. And I'm sure a lot of people know.
You were a student at the time.
I was a student.
So you couldn't have done much.
No, I couldn't have done much because I think I was even a first-year student at the time. Even understanding how the law works, it's quite different.
Do you know how he turned out? I am now sad for him.
Yes, I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know how it turned out, but yes.
Yeah, but will this not water down the seriousness, the gravity of offenses? How do we strike a balance?
We strike a balance by the practice notes that we expect, and then how the judges handle it.
From the Supreme Court to the
Supreme Court to the courts. Okay. Exactly. So how the judges will exercise that discretion would be very helpful. But the most important thing is that it is important to leave that discretion to a neutral arbiter. Previously, it was in the case of the executive. That discretion was in the executive because they decide, and they are not neutral because remember that it is the state versus the person. So in this case, the executive is not a neutral person. They are a party to the suit. And yet it was theirs to exercise the discretion. It's important that now that discretion will be exercised by a neutral person.
We have to go now, but what should be the consequences if the courts are failing to live to the letter and spirit of this law?
It's the only way we have is appeal. It's appeal. The commitment rule of law is that we commit to be bound by the judgments of our courts, whether or not we agree with them. If we don't agree with the judgments of the courts, the process is to appeal. There are several mechanisms available, but we don't have the option to disregard. Okay. Otherwise, we would descend into chaos.
Okay.
We want to be an organized society. Yes, our system is not perfect, but we have to commit to making our system work. We have to test the system. We have to challenge the system. We also have to insist that the system works. I think it's the only way. But to say because our system works, we won't do it, I think is a path of retrogression. And I believe we can do it. It may take time, but I believe that we can, as a people, we can do it.
And thank you very much.